Space Jam: A New Legacy. Whether you like this movie or not, it really depends on how you look at it. I've seen plenty of reviews for this movie already. A lot of people aren't big fans of it, but that's because they're adults. You have to keep in mind that this movie is made for kids. It is supposed to be the more modernized version of the original Space Jam. Now it's more about video games and tech, and that's all great and stuff, but a lot of people still kind of forget that, this is meant for kids. It isn't necessarily something adults are necessarily going to enjoy, but even though I'm technically a kid, but still not a kid at the same time, I enjoyed it. I had a fun time. That's the way you have to go into this, is kind of just forget about how you think things work and how you think things are going to go, and just sit back, relax, and have a good time, because this really is a giant party. And it was just really fun, because the way I went into this was, I've been excited for this movie for months. I went into it, finally got the chance to sit down, I just watched it and had a good time. That's really how I went about it, and I think that's the best way to do it, because if you go into it as oh, it's going to be an Oscar movie, it's not. It's really
Thank you,
not
Daddy.
a great movie, but it's a fun movie. That's what I enjoy about it. I just had a fun time with Space Jam: A New Legacy. And if you haven't seen the trailers yet, or haven't seen the movie and don't know what this movie is about, it is of course about LeBron James taking on the mantle of the Space Jam franchise, and now he's teaming up with the Looney Tunes to form the Goon Squad to take on Don Cheadle's villain of G Rythym and the Goon Squad in this giant crazy basketball game inside the ServerVerse, which is this whole multiverse of Warner Brothers properties, which was honestly a really insane part of the movie. And like I said, I've been super excited for this movie, and it is not what you expect, but also I enjoyed it. But one question I know a lot of people are probably going to be asking about this movie is this better than the original Space Jam, which of course came out over 25 years ago? Is this the better movie? In my personal opinion, I think it is. But to be fair, a lot of people who probably think the original one is better is mostly because of nostalgia. I didn't grow up watching that. A lot of people did, and probably will think that's better. But if I'm being honest, I actually just watched the first Space Jam for the first time just an hour before I watched Space Jam: A New Legacy, just so I can have the previous knowledge of oh yeah, there's the callbacks and stuff like that. So I think this new movie was better. I just had more of a fun time. I still enjoyed the first Space Jam, but I think this movie was personally better. But again, that's because I didn't grow up with it and I don't have the past experiences with that version of the movie. I have the experience with this Space Jam. And of course, the big change when it comes to this movie compared to the first one is that Michael Jordan is no longer the lead. Now we have LeBron James as the NBA superstar that is teaming up with the Looney Tunes. And LeBron is not an actor. He's a basketball player. So, of course, he's not an amazing actor here. But honestly, I think he wasn't too bad. He was better than I expected. There's some scenes where it's pretty obvious he's not a professional actor, but at the same time you also have to keep in mind that a lot of the stuff they did to make this movie, for example, the actual basketball game, when they were filming that was basically just LeBron James as the only actual person there just playing basketball in a green screen room. There wasn't really much. That's a really hard thing for actors to do. So I think he actually did pretty good for what he was dealing with in this situation. And LeBron James, I think he's a great guy. Of course, he and Michael Jordan really are probably the two greatest of all time players of basketball. It's kind of a toss-up to say which one's better, but I think they both do a good job in these movies, and LeBron, again, was a lot better than I expected. And speaking of surprising performances, but also not super surprising, it comes to Zendaya as Lola Bunny. This was a character that, I love Zendaya, but when we got revealed the first reveal of Zendaya voicing Lola Bunny, an actual clip of it, I was not a fan. But now actually seeing in the movie, I think she was actually one of the best parts, and I wish we got to see more of her. I think she was amazing in this film. And the same goes for Don Cheadle. Of course, Don Cheadle, he's great. He plays our villain of this film, G Rythym, the algorithm that creates all these Warner Brothers movies. And he was a really cool villain. He was really, really evil, especially towards the end. And Actually, at times, like when he got powered up and like really got angry and stuff, he really reminded me of Jamie Foxx's Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. That was just like the way his voice changed and like the electricity and stuff definitely reminded me of that character. And yes, as we saw in the promo art and merchandise that I did a video on previously, he does go full buff Cheetle by the end of the movie. And if I'm being honest, that really didn't look great. But at the same time, I mean, it was kind of cool, but also weird, but cool at the same time, if you know what I mean. So those three, of course, are like the big three cast members of this movie. But the big stars, at least in my personal opinion, are the Looney Tunes with the Toon Squad. The Looney Tunes, I love the Looney Tunes. I love seeing them in this movie. And I thought they were really great. We had this great subplot with Bugs Bunny with how G Rythym actually basically made all of the Looney Tunes leave the Looney Tune planet and go off to all these other places throughout the ServerVerse, which is a big plot point in this movie where Bugs and LeBron have to go find all of the Toon Squad. And just this almost sadness and depression with Bugs Bunny with how he's the only one that stayed on the Looney Tunes planet and everybody left him and he just misses his family. And I thought that was a great subplot that I wish we would have gotten more of, but you know, obviously we got to focus on LeBron and his family and everything. But honestly, if they just gave us a full-on Looney Tunes movie and it was all about that, I would not be upset with that. And their competitors in this basketball game, as I mentioned before, are the Goon Squad, which really tie into LeBron's son Dom and his video game that he's created, which was pretty cool. And I think these characters, you didn't really get much development on the characters. I didn't like seeing how they were created and all that stuff, and how they're actually voiced by actual NBA and WNBA players in real life. So I thought that was pretty cool. And just the characters overall were awesome. Like you got the Brow, this giant feathered bird-like creature, and Wetfire I think was probably the best one because like just the CGI and visual effects on that character with like the water, how he played basketball and like changed into fire. Arachnica was cool. Kronos was awesome. Really the whole Goon Squad I think was like really visually cool to see playing around on the basketball court. And another thing I loved in this movie was the great callbacks. I thought there were some great callbacks. Things that happen or things that are mentioned at the beginning of the movie really come back towards the end in some really big, important ways, which I love me some good callbacks, and you got some big ones in this movie. So this is a kids movie, so of course we have to have a big overall theme and message to go out to the kids to like inspire them to be better people and all that stuff. And usually messages can be pretty cringy in these kinds of kids movies, but honestly I think the one in this movie was really good about having this great father and son story between LeBron and his son Dom, and just being that it also related to Looney Tunes as well, how you really just need to, you know, be yourself and embrace who you are, what you want to be, what you want to do. And I thought that was a great message, and I think they did it in a really cool way in this movie. That again, with that, has some great callbacks to the beginning of the film. Now, finally, probably the biggest selling point of this movie was the ServerVerse. This was the thing that got people hyped up for this movie so much after the first trailer, that sparked so many people doing trailer breakdowns, including myself. I literally did 2 different trailer breakdowns with all the different various cameos and Easter eggs, all the different planets we visit in this movie. Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, DC, there was even a Wonder Woman comic book. Matrix, the Mad Max, there were some great ones in here that I thought were really funny. And, you know, it is basically just a giant Warner Brothers commercial if you think about it. But I feel like for the most part, they used them in really cool ways. And like when we went to the DC world, pointing out all the various different cameos that we got there, it was just really fun. And I feel like would make for a great, time to like go hunting through this movie for like all the different Easter eggs you can find. And, you know, I'd love to do one of those really cool, like, Easter egg breakdown videos for this movie, but at the same time, that's a lot of work, and also, it's kind of hard to get the footage, because it's not like you can go on HBO Max and just screen record the movie. That'd be illegal. I mean, if I could figure out some simple, easy way to do that, I might end up doing that, but at the same time, again, it'd be pretty hard. But anybody who does do that kind of thing, I mean, mad props to you people, because that's time consuming. But the ServerVerse in this movie overall, again, I think was just really cool, and maybe we could have seen a little bit more of it, but I do think that they did a good job of utilizing it in pretty useful and clever ways for this film. But anyways, guys, that was my review for Space Jam: A New Legacy. Again, I think it's a good movie, not a great movie, but when you go to sit down and watch this movie, you really need to shut your brain off and just have fun and just have a giant party with this movie, because it really is just a fun time if you just sit there, enjoy it, and just enjoy it for what it's worth. That's all I've got to say. I really had a fun time with it, and I don't know if we're going to get a sequel or another Space Jam movie with another professional athlete or something like that. I don't really know where the future of this franchise is going to go. If it's successful, we'll kind of have to wait and see. But guys, let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about Space Jam: A New Legacy? And do you want me to do any other videos on this? I mean, I guess I could try an Easter egg breakdown, but again, that'd be kind of hard. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. But anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep up to date on everything that goes on in the movie life.